Pokemon Fanfiction Novels presents The Chosen One's Journey by DragonWolf12. Ash Ketchum was never a morning person, and today was no exception. Looking at the smoking remains of his alarm clock, Ash grumbled under his breath about whoever turned on the alarm clock was going to pay. Over the past year, Ash had woken himself up before dawn without help every single day. He needed to do this in order to have the quiet he desired to meditate. In fact, he had already been up for an hour and was just putting on some workout clothes so he could go for a morning jog. Suddenly, Ash remembered what day today was, and a smile broke out across his face. Today was the day he would be getting his trainer's license and his first Pokemon. Glancing at his windowsill, he let out a soft sigh. Sitting on it was a pair of Pokemon eggs that he hoped would be his first, but sadly, they hadn't hatched yet. Putting on a set of shorts and a t-shirt, he left the house and began running through town. As he ran, he began thinking about the past year and how it had changed him from the immature and easily distracted boy he had been into the calm and focused young man he was today. Flashback. 1 year ago. "Ash, could you come down here, please?" Delilah Ketchum shouted to her son. A minute later, Ash came walking down. "What's up, Mom?" he asked. "Somebody has sent you a package," she said, showing him a box that the postman had just delivered. "Really? I wonder who it's from," he said, as he opened the box. Inside of the box was a very old-looking book. Sitting on top of the book was a simple post-it note with a message written upon it. "Use this book to become the best, like no one ever was. A friend." "That's strange," Delilah said. "I wonder who would send you this." "I don't know. Maybe it was Professor Oak," Ash suggested. "Maybe," Delilah said slowly. "We'll have to ask him the next time we see him. For now, why don't you go clear off some of the action figures from your bookcase so there will be room for this?" End flashback. It turned out that it hadn't been Professor Oak who had sent it, but he was just as curious as they were. Ash smiled as he ran. From that moment on, he had been engrossed by all of the knowledge that one book held. He had learned quite a bit in the past 12 months, but the real surprise had been more recent. Flashback. 1 month ago. Ash was sitting in his room, thinking about his Pokemon journey, when suddenly a voice rang out from downstairs. "Ash, there's another package for you!" Ash's eyes nearly bugged out. Without stopping to think, he bolted downstairs to see another large box, identical to the first one. Ash ripped it open and gasped at what he saw inside. "What is it, honey?" Delilah asked in concern. Wordlessly, Ash reached into the box and pulled out a Pokemon egg. It was blue in color, with a black stripe near the top of it. He then pulled out a second. This one was very light blue, with 2 white marks on either side of it. "Oh my!" Delilah said in surprise. After a moment, Ash came back to himself and remembered the proper way to raise an egg and placed them on the windowsill so that they would receive enough sunlight. He then returned to the box to find another note. "You are nearly ready to follow the path to your destiny. Use these to take the first step. A friend." "I wonder what that's supposed to mean," Ash said. End flashback. Ash had now finished his morning run and was back in his room. He went to the bookshelf and pulled out an ancient-looking book from the shelf. He brought it over to the corner of the room and sat down cross-legged with the book in front of him. Opening it to the first page, he ran his fingers along the paper and smiled as words, only visible to him, began to write themselves across the page. "Greetings, young Aura Guardian. I am Sir Aaron. If you are reading this book, then you are one of the lucky few that can harness their aura and use it to their fullest potential. In order to keep the workings of Aura Guardians a secret, the words in this book are visible only to you. I have written this book so that in the event of my passing, the teachings of Aura may continue. Farewell, and good luck." Ash grinned as he remembered discovering this once he had brought the book and Pokemon eggs to his room. He had spent the previous year practicing with his aura abilities. However, there were some teachings that could only be performed with the help of Pokemon. Speaking of Pokemon, he looked at the clock. 7:30 a.m. The professor wanted all the new trainers to be at the lab no later than 10 o'clock a.m. Since he had packed everything last night, there wasn't much he could do but get dressed in his new travel outfit. It consisted of a black t-shirt, blue jeans with a blue and white jacket with gold trim, and his signature Pokemon League hat. He then grabbed his green backpack, put his Pokemon eggs inside, and walked out. Going downstairs to the delicious smell of his mother's cooking, he gave his mother a customary, "Morning, Mom," before sitting down to eat his pancakes while his mother bustled around the kitchen. "Good morning, honey," she greeted cheerfully. "Are you excited about today? It's going to be your first day as a trainer." "Yeah, I can't wait," he said between mouthfuls. "Well, stay safe on your journey," she said as her eyes began to tear up. "And don't forget to change your underwear every day." Ash blushed. "Don't worry, Mom, I won't," he said as he got up to hug her. Ash hadn't told his mother about the aura training, figuring that it would just worry her even more. Releasing his mom from the hug, Ash grabbed his backpack and walked out the door. Just as he was going, he heard his mother call out, saying that she would meet him at Professor Oak's after he had gotten his Pokemon. It was still only about 9 o'clock a.m., but he figured that the professor wouldn't mind him arriving early. Once he had reached the front door of Oak's house, he rang the doorbell. After waiting for about a minute, Professor Oak opened the door. "Ah, Ash, you're the first to arrive. Come in," he said, holding the door open. Ash stepped through and followed Oak through the building into his lab. "Here we are, Ash," Oak said, leading him to a contraption in the middle of the room. It had a glass dome that slid away once Oak pressed a button, revealing 3 Pokeballs. "Here we have the 3 starter Pokemon. First is Bulbasaur, the grass type." He pointed to the Pokeball with the leaf symbol on it. "Next is Charmander, the fire type." He pointed to the Pokeball with a flame symbol on it. "And finally, here is Squirtle, the water type." He pointed to a Pokeball with a teardrop symbol on it. "So, which one will it be?" Oak asked. Ash was silent for a moment. "Professor, I'm not really sure that any of these Pokemon are right for me," he finally said, to the confusion of the professor. "What do you mean by that?" Oak asked. "It's hard to explain, but it's like a gut instinct," Ash said. In reality, he was tuned in with the subtle fluctuations of his aura, and they were telling him not to choose any of the 3. "Are there any other Pokemon that are available?" Oak thought for a moment. "Well, there is one. It's a Pikachu that I caught recently, but he's especially wild and will take some time to properly tame." "Would you mind if I see him?" Ash asked. "Well, I suppose so," Oak said. He pressed another button on the machine, and a 4th Pokeball appeared in the center of the other 3. This one had a lightning bolt mark on it. The Pokemon researcher took the ball and released its inhabitant. In a storm of electricity, a Pikachu appeared on the table. The moment Ash saw Pikachu, he knew this was the Pokemon for him. Ash could feel the mistrust and fear that came off the Pikachu in waves through his aura. Slowly stepping forward, he began pooling aura into his palm. Pikachu focused in on him, while Oak watched in interest. Preparing for the shock of a lifetime, he placed his hand on Pikachu's side, and quickly released the pent-up aura in a pulse that would initiate an empathy link. The reaction was instant. His mind was suddenly filled with rushing images and emotions. Mistrust of humans, a burning desire to become strong, fear of Pokeballs, a thirst to be the best, to name a few, all in a few seconds. Gently pushing past Pikachu's rampant emotions, Ash opened his heart and let it spill into Pikachu. He had no idea what Pikachu saw within him, but he could feel a steady sense of acceptance and trust build up in the mouse. Taking this as a good sign, Ash used his aura to communicate across the empathy link. "Will you join me on my journey and accept me as your trainer, Pikachu?" There was a tense silence as Pikachu mulled over his trainer's words. Finally, after several long moments, Ash received a distinct mental nod from Pikachu. He let out a sigh of relief and pressed on. "If you and I are going to be partners, then I would like to form an aura bond between us. Will you allow it?" An aura bond was a technique that many aura guardians used to bond with their Pokemon in a special way. It allowed the bonded to speak telepathically with each other from any distance, and formed an empathy link between the two. In order to form the bond, one must take the other's aura and fuse it together with his or her own. Then the other must accept the bond and let it settle, making the bond permanent. Pikachu was shocked by what Ash was asking. After observing this human's heart, he had come to decide that if there was one human in the world that he would willingly serve, it would be this one.